Hi, welcome to Dig Into China. I'm Don Shang. Today, I'd like to share the perspective of a leading expert on China. Nowadays, it's impossible to discuss Chinese issues without mentioning Xi Jinping. The governance of the Chinese Communist Party is quite unique and unlike that of any other country. The CCP's influence on the economy is significant, often decisive. This is especially true with Xi Jinping's implementation of a lifetime tenure system. His authoritarian management style can almost single-handedly dictate the economic climate in China, whether it be sunny or stormy. A few years ago, Xi Jinping launched a regulatory storm that left China's major private tech companies demoralized. His traffic light system for capital has made private enterprises hesitant to invest. Last year, Xi proposed treating private entrepreneurs as family members and promoting the economy, even saying he would personally manage it. However, the international community has observed that Xi's approach seems haphazard. China's economic growth is currently sluggish, and both domestic and international opinions generally believe the root cause is the lack of consumer enthusiasm among the Chinese people. Why is there a lack of consumer enthusiasm? Because China's economic growth is slowing, and the people are pessimistic about the future. Additionally, the zero-COVID policy over the past 3 years has significantly reduced the wealth of many Chinese citizens. The Chinese people feel pessimistic about the present and worried about the future, leading to a reluctance to spend. So, how can this problem be solved? It's straightforward. Restore public confidence, implement more policies that benefit the people, and increase disposable income. However, Xi Jinping has chosen a different path. He believes that China should not emulate the West and that giving confidence to the people is unnecessary. So, how does he plan to address the current economic difficulties? How will he deal with the real estate crisis, local government debt crisis, and the financial crisis? Xi's solution is to increase production, as this can boost employment. But what if the increased production isn't consumed domestically? His plan is to export it abroad. This strategy is problematic both economically and practically. As a result, developed countries have united to resist China's export of excess capacity, no longer welcoming cheap goods from China. So a question arises, what exactly is Xi Jinping's mindset? How is he governing the country now, and how does he formulate his specific decisions? To address these inquiries, many individuals often fall into a trap of biased viewpoints, lacking rational research and logical analysis. Much of the discourse tends to be emotional and caricatured, aiming at diminishing or vilifying Xi Jinping's image. If you were to stand in Xi Jinping's position, considering his interest, your perspective on this issue might be quite different. Now, we have a top US expert on China issues, Scott Kennedy, attempting to answer these questions. At this historical juncture, he analyzes how Xi Jinping himself thinks and how he organizes and implements his decisions. Scott Kennedy is a senior advisor and a trustee chair in Chinese business and economics at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS. A leading authority on Chinese economic policy and US-China commercial relations, Kennedy has been traveling to China for 35 years. His specific areas of expertise include industrial policy, technology innovation, business lobbying, US-China commercial relations, and global governance. His articles have appeared in a wide array of policy, popular, and academic venues, including the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Foreign Affairs, Foreign Policy, and China Quarterly. Scott Kennedy's analysis is remarkably perceptive, characterized by its logic depth. He steered clear of biased or oversimplified emotional portrayals, making his insights invaluable and worth sharing with you. According to Scott Kennedy, Xi Jinping's decision-making process exhibits 4 phenomena that have led to his decisions being viewed unfavorably, both by Western public opinion and by China's intellectual circles. Kennedy describes these phenomena using 4 doesn't a method of summarization that it reflects the conventions of Chinese political discourse. This approach underscores his expertise in Chinese affairs. Firstly, Xi Jinping doesn't know. His propensity for making numerous erroneous decisions stems from his lack of awareness of the truth. Why is Xi Jinping said to lack knowledge? According to Kennedy, those surrounding Xi Jinping are sycophants who refrain from delivering unfavorable news to him. They selectively present content that aligns with Xi Jinping's preference. This tendency significantly contributes to Xi Jinping's bewildering decisions, as officials only report good news and withhold bad news. Secondly, Xi Jinping doesn't know what to do. Despite his access to a range of information, he is confronted with numerous challenging issues. The list of challenges is extensive, encompassing issues such as the real estate crisis, local government debt crisis, declining birth rates, widening wealth gap, deepening conflicts with Western countries, and strained relations with most neighboring nations. None of these issues can be easily resolved. In certain instances, the leadership engages in prolonged debates on how to address specific issues but delayed decision-making. For instance, last summer it was evident that the sluggish stock market posed a significant problem. Yet, new measures were only introduced in early 2024. Resolving the chaos in the real estate sector and addressing economic imbalances proved even more challenging. Finding an effective policy path to manage conflicts of interest across various sectors is extremely difficult. Due to a lack of consensus among all stakeholders, including the central government, local governments, developers, homeowners, financial institutes, and other economic sectors. The CCP's third plenum was postponed from January 2024 to the summer. Some sources emphasize that the quality of senior officials has significantly declined. The current premier, Li Qiang, is seen as significantly inferior to his predecessor, Li Keqiang, who passed away last fall. Similarly, Vice Premier He Lifeng, tasked with overseeing the economy, is perceived as less capable than his predecessor, Liu He. With lower quality trusted officials and a plethora of problems, Xi Jinping finds himself at a loss. Thus, it's evident that firstly, Xi Jinping lacks awareness of many realities, and secondly, he genuinely struggles to navigate the challenges confronting him. The third dissent presents an intriguing perspective, reflecting Scott Kennedy's insight. Why does Xi Jinping exhibit the behaviors we see today? It's because he doesn't care. Even if the key were to fail, if the sky were to fail, Xi Jinping would likely remain indifferent. He simply doesn't prioritize it. Kennedy elaborates that Xi Jinping's primary focus is on consolidating CCP control and reinforcing his personal authoritarianism. Despite occasional visits to factories and rural areas and discussions on economic challenges, much of his daily agenda likely revolves around security and political matters, including personnel decisions, rather than economic concerns. Many perceive Xi Jinping as willing to prioritize nationalism and the CCP's supremacy over economic prosperity. In this regard, Xi Jinping is not alone. Some suggest that his selections as Hu Jintao's successor was not to emulate Gorbachev's reform in the former Soviet Union. Those holding this viewpoint, often of older generations, underscore the apparent parallels between Xi Jinping and Mao Zedong in their emphasis on ideological purity and class struggle. This dynamic has contributed to tensions between the broader society and elite echelons. This aspect is often overlooked, as many Western media sources and even some Chinese intellectuals tend to assume that Xi Jinping's decisions are primarily motivated by economic concerns. However, Kennedy highlights that this assumption may not hold true. Xi Jinping appears indifferent to economic downturns. His primary focus is on ensuring political stability and utilizing populism to bolster his autocratic rule. As long as his grip on power remains firm and he can manipulate public sentiment through populist tactics, economic factors seem to take a backseat in his considerations. Once you grasp this concept, it becomes clear why many criticize Xi Jinping for regression and harming the private economy. However, he remains indifferent to these accusations as his primary focus is on maintaining power. Economic considerations are secondary to his overarching goal of preserving control. The fourth doesn't is equally intriguing. He doesn't agree. It signifies Xi Jinping's dissent. What does this entail? It implies that Xi Jinping and his core team dismisses criticism of current policy directions. They do not subscribe to them. The Xi Jinping team contends that China has forfeited access to Western technology, markets, and financial channels. Consequently, the CCP has no alternative but to cultivate indigenous technology and strive to dominate the global supply chain as much as possible. Furthermore, the CCP leadership takes pride in the fact that their strategies are yielding outcomes. For instance, China now leads in electric vehicles and batteries, boasts the world's longest high-speed rail systems, has developed the C919 single-aisle commercial aircraft, and has established a range of popular internet platforms and the Beidou satellite system. Most insiders believe that Xi Jinping holds steadfast views regarding the pivotal role of controlling advanced technology in China's economic and strategic imperatives, and he is actively pursuing this vision. As a result, Xi Jinping has redirected the economic emphasis from investment and real estate towards advanced manufacturing, along with providing concentrated party-state support for new technologies. This strategy not only fosters growth but also bolsters national security. While external observers may view Xi Jinping as uninformed, inept, or disinterested in the economy, Xi Jinping's team perceives themselves as having a clear objective and taking decisive action. However, those who recognize the element of "I don't agree" within Xi Jinping's leadership are split into two factions. The first, comprising the majority, contends that the CCP leadership has made mistakes in aggressively pursuing nationalist industrial policies and in managing future technologies. They argue that crackdowns on private enterprises and insufficient attention to household consumption lead to reduced productivity, increased debt, slowed growth, and heightened tensions with other advanced economies. Conversely, the second faction holds a contrary view. They endorse the action of the Chinese leadership and perceive critics as inherently anti-communist, overlooking the strides made by the Xi Jinping government in technological advancement. Many in this faction are employed in government research institutions. Understand the analysis of the 4 doesn't in Xi Jinping's mindset can help us better navigate the challenges posed by the current CCP regime. Many only grasp the first 2 doesn'ts, that he doesn't know and he doesn't know how. One solution to this is to provide accurate information to leadership and propose more effective plans. Some US officials share this view, believing that a direct dialogue between President Biden and Xi Jinping could help ensure Xi Jinping understands the truth about various issues such as the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Taiwan situation, etc., and thus formulate the correct diplomatic policies. However, they overlook the latter 2 doesn't in Xi Jinping's decision-making process, doesn't care and doesn't agree. Therefore, enhancing communication between leaders may not yield significant changes. So, are significant changes on the horizon for China? What events could potentially spark societal transformation in China? There are 2 potential scenarios. One potential scenario is a major economic crisis, prompting a political reckoning where current leaders might recognize their errors and alter their course. Alternative factions within the elite might replace the current leadership, or the public could instigate a protest movement seeking to overthrow the CCP altogether. However, such events appear unlikely in the short to medium term. The second potential catalyst for change involves situating China's leadership within a more favorable international context. This would require the US and European countries to broadly offer security assurances, technology, financial support, and unconditionally recognize the legitimacy of the CCP's authoritarian regime. It would also mean accepting Beijing's claims over the South China Sea and Taiwan. However, the probability of this shift happening is even lower lower than the possibility of domestic protests in China. The West is unlikely to become more accommodating. After reading Kennedy's analysis of the 4 dozens, I'm impressed by his depth of understanding. The first 3 dozens are straightforward. Xi Jinping doesn't know the truth, doesn't know what to do, and doesn't care about the economy. However, the 4th dozen is less commonly recognized. Kennedy explains that Xi Jinping doesn't agree with criticism. In simple terms, Xi rejects both Western and domestic criticism because he has his own plans and beliefs. What are his own ideas? They entail having no illusions about the West and preparing for the worst in ongoing contention, even if it means reverting to a state of isolation. This is the core of Xi Jinping's disagreement. Kennedy's analysis of Xi Jinping's thought process and decision-making through the lens of these 4 dozens is logical, rational, and, to be honest, quite respectful towards Xi. This framework helps explain why Xi's governance often leads to dissatisfaction both internationally and domestically. The 4 dozens provide a coherent explanation for his actions. Observing and understanding Xi Jinping remains crucial yet challenging for anyone trying to grasp the current state of China. Thank you for watching. Please like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.